Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Today, we are continuing our stories and readings on Ahamkara's Wish Dragons. Uh, I Similar to Dragon Ball's dragons myth. They're kind of the
ish, I
yeah,
guess.
kind of yeah. I mean, you don't have to gather the stuff for them to appear. You can just walk right up to one and be like, "Hey, I want this," and they're going to be like, "Hey, you get this," and you're like, "Wait a
Yeah.
second."
Yeah, I don't know that the wishes in DBZ ever were intentionally obtuse. Yeah.
No, I don't think they ever are. So yeah, but this is that's what we're doing. We're continuing on with the Ahamkaras and their monkey paw wish magic. When we ended last episode, we were in the Dreaming City. Life was good. We had Ahamkara and Awoken walking beside each other throughout the Dreaming City. They live pretty peacefully, except for Azram. He's kind of a dick, but yeah, like it's like black sheep, right? Like there's always that one cousin where you're just like, I don't know, we should invite him to the family reunion. Maybe just send him a hello afterwards and call it good. But yeah, life seems pretty good. There's the Awoken have created ways to kind of like interact with them without wishes just kind of going astray. By way of the oh god, what's the stone myth? I can't think of the name of the stone now.
Amethyst.
Amethyst, yes, to create the mirror images of themselves and reflections, because Ahamkar have a hard time reading those. And then of course Mara, her whole thing with the I don't like spoken language because it's a poor communicator. She created a whole wish wall and a set of pictographs to convey exactly what she wants to any I would assume any Ahamkara. I always associate the wish wall in Last Wish specifically to Riven, but I suppose it could work with any Ahamkara. There's no reason to say that it couldn't. But yeah, to be kind of like a more controlled environment for wishes, just so they don't do like crazy shit like all of a sudden George the Awoken now has 17 arms and lasers coming out of his fingers. No, we don't want that.
Yeah, not so much.
But yeah, so where are we picking up today, Myth?
Yeah, so today we are continuing our kind of history of the Ahamkara as they have lived alongside everything in the, I guess, universe, really, before getting to the Soul System. And once they arrived here, things were okay for a little bit. But once they met Guardians, and Guardians understood what their powers were and how dangerous they were, they were met with a great deal of caution. And it was always this temptation that was there for a guardian to go make a wish, and the Vanguard understood that temptation was a big danger. And so the Ahamkara had always sat in this place of like, they're really powerful, they can be really useful, but they can also be very, very dangerous to a lot of people, not just, the poor fool that goes and talks to them. And so they were already in this kind of place of contention. And then they started doing something to Venus. And what it was essentially some kind of like terraforming almost. But this terraforming in classic Wish Dragon fashion was so odd and ethereal that no one could actually agree on what it was they were doing.
Interesting.
And so we're going to start tonight by reading a letter from Eris Morn to Queen Marasov in regards to what is happening on Venus and what the Vanguard is decided to do. And this comes from the Mask of the Great Hunt which is the hunter's helmet from the Last Wish raid. And we're going to be going over a lot of Last Wish items today. So this one goes like this. The Ahamkara remain an issue. There's still so much we can learn from them, but what they've done to Venus, no two guardians see the same thing. Consultants from the war cult have been brought in to gauge disagreements over the timelines of events. One of our warlocks stared into the paracausal phenomenon that formed over the Ishtar Academy and shot himself. He is not an authorized Thanatonaut, by the way. Luckily, his ghost hid from him beforehand, and we managed to get him back. He has no lingering physical wounds, but will still need time to recover. We thought we were gods who had found an opportunity for more power. A silly notion to the likes of you and me, but the average guardian has not been threatened like this. The Titans are beside themselves. We will take extreme measures. We must. But these creatures have such means. They will flee, far and wide, perhaps all the way to you. Mara, I implore you, if you hold your people as dearly as you say you do, you will end them on sight. Signed, Eris Morn. That's the end of that one.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I guess a Titan would be someone who would want 16 arms and lasers coming out of their fingers. Must punch more, right? Like that's
Right, yeah.
yeah. That's the key there. Yeah, no. So I do the idea of like no two guardians seeing the same thing. I think that's very much like a through the looking glass style description of it, of like just because it's something is that obviously nobody can describe what's happening because nobody can come to the same conclusion, which also is driving Guardians to madness, like the one that just stared into the abyss and just shot himself. Like, I mean, that's yeah, that's your typical like Hollywood, like, oh, this guy's been driven to madness type thing. So yeah, but then for her to feel this strongly about it, to say to Mara, kill him, kill the Ahamkara, because
Yeah.
that's what she's saying at the end, right? Like, kill them all. Like,
Yeah, she's essentially alluding to what does end up being the Vanguard's decision of we need to eradicate the threat.
now here's a flip side of that. Just killing them doesn't end it.
No. So Ahamkara, I don't know if live is the right term, but
Yeah.
their essence persists beyond the death of their organic body.
Yeah. That's the whole thing with the bone that Callus had that we
Yep.
talked about. Like their bones have power. Their bones can grant wishes.
Yeah, so Ahamkara bones hold again like the soul or the essence of the Ahamkara they came from. And it seems like perhaps the strength of the Ahamkara maybe dictates how powerful that lingering piece of it is, or something along those lines. Because certainly not all of them are equal in their abilities after death, but they all seem to have an ability to further communicate after death.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the Vanguard institutes what becomes known as the Great Hunt, or the Great Ahamkara Hunt, where they mobilize any and all notable guardians of strong will to go to Venus, where all the Ahamkara have seemed to collect for whatever reason, and eradicate them, drive them to extinction.
And this is a Vanguard decision, not a like Vanguard response to Mara or anything like that.
Right.
This is all independent. The Vanguard just say, well, this shit's dangerous. We're going to deal with it.
Yes. Yeah. This is a Vanguard decision of like, this is how we're going to deal with this threat. The only way we see as a possibility, and that is to remove it from the system.
Now, do Guardians? I guess that's the other question too, because like obviously Callus understood that the bones still held power. Do Guardians understand that?
Yes.
Okay,
That is a known function. Although, who knows how much they understand, but they
sure.
definitely either know beforehand or learn over the course of the Great Hunt that is something that needs to be accounted for. Uh,
Okay.
so we're going to start off the Great Hunt itself with the hunter chest, the vest of the Great Hunt, which continues with Eris now during the hunt itself, presumably near the beginning of the hunt. And it goes like this: Venus, the Great Hunt. The Ahamkara refused to die. For a day, Wei Ning had been fighting it to a standstill with her bare hands, cratering it repeatedly into the ground. Eris had seen wish dragons drive titans mad by refusing to fall to brute strength, but Eris was pretty sure Wei Ning was already insane. Confession time, the titan said as she hammered punches into the Ahamkara's tentacled face. I've kind of been wishing this fight would go on forever. Eris balked. Please stop, you psychopath. We have 6 others to handle. No, we want this. Trust me, Wei Ning said. An hour later, 6 shapes emerged from the Venusian foliage. Ahamkara. Their compatriot, whom Wei Ning continued to pound into the ground, was pulsating, growing stronger, feeding. The others had come to feast at the same table. Eris pulled her arc blade from the air and blinked, and when the hunter and Titan finished their hunt, Eris thought she heard Wei Ning whisper, Did you say something? I was about to ask you. And that's the end of that card.
Ooh, the secret whisper. So, okay, now Wei Ning, and again, we're gonna throughout all the readings tonight, we're gonna have a lot of big names and
Yes.
myth, and all of you know my squirrel brain. I'm gonna forget who the hell all these people are. Wei Ning is one of Eris's fire team members.
Yes.
That went into the Hellmouth.
Yeah, so it is worth pointing out that the Ahamkara hunt is well before the events of the Hellmouth, the events of Eris's fire team, also well before the events of the original assault on the moon and kind of the war with Crota.
This is like really honestly, I think really early Vanguard days where it's like the speakers there, and then I think it's like Saint 14 and Osiris are like his left and right hand man. As part of the Vanguard, like and again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think like Zavala or Cade or Ikora are in power, or I don't want to say in power, but they're not like the Vanguard Hunter, the Vanguard Warlock, and Titan.
I don't believe so. Ikora would be Osiris's protege.
And Obrask, I think, would be in charge right now. So it's probably those 3 then.
It'd be even prior to Andalbrask.
Okay.
It would be Tallulah Fairwind during
There you go. So it'd be Tallulah, Saint, and Osiris as the 3 primary vanguards right now.
Yeah, and
Holy
so
shit, that really is like early days.
Yeah.
That's what would that be? City Age, like early.
I think
City
probably
Age?
very early City Age, probably shortly after the founding of the city. So yeah, Wei Ning is a very important figure, and we'll see a lot of very important figures in these cards. So she was not part of Eris's fire team, but her death is what caused Ariana 3 to form that fire team.
Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah, Wei Ning and Ariana 3 were presumed to be lovers. Wei Ning died in the original assault against Crota on the moon, and Ariana 3 then formed her little band of people to seek revenge afterwards, and Eris was included in that.
With goddamn Toland.
Yeah. Yep.
Fucking Toland.
But yeah, so we see here Eris as a hunter before she lost her light, as an arc hunter apparently.
I was gonna say I always forget that she's a hunter. Like because she's so steeped in like dark magic now, I always think of her as a warlock, and like she's really like. Again, nothing against hunters, but I feel like she's like the smartest hunter on the planet, or maybe in the universe. I don't know. She seems like a warlock to me.
Well, she's certainly the most crafty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I believe this is when she first met Wei Ning, was kind of being paired up with her for this hunt, and Wei Ning is using the making of wishes as bait. She's making herself look like a target for other Ahamkara.
That's a bold move.
It's a very bold move. Wei Ning is known to be a very unsubtle Titan.
Is Wei Ning the one that hucked somebody as a missile?
No. That was in the Iron Lords. But Wei Ning is the one that is attributed with the quote, "I will punch the darkness itself." So yeah.
Punch more hands, 16 arms. Yeah.
But so it does seem like this early into the hunt, perhaps Wei Ning and Eris are just not particularly familiar with Ahamkara, or maybe it isn't common knowledge yet, but they hear this whispering and they don't think to attribute it to the dead Ahamkara. So
I didn't even think of that, but that's got to be where it's coming from, right?
Yeah. So it seems like perhaps that wasn't common knowledge at this point in time, at the beginning of the hunt. So as we move on, we can actually see that not only did Eris send Mara a request to just keep an eye out, really, but Mara actually actively contributes to the hunt. So not only did Mara receive that request, she was like, "Yeah, this is a good idea. This is something that should be done." And we see that in the greaves of the Great Hunt, which are the Titan boots from Last Wish. And so from there, we see this. So the dreaming city would have a wall too. Leona Barrel stared up at rows of blank circular plates with dread. This one was more valuable than everything behind the wall of the last city, and not nearly as defensible. The tower has asked for help in its great hunt. If the vanguard knew that help the queen rendered came at the behest of the Ahamkara Riven, armies of guardians would be storming the reef. So, they will never know. The guardians brought this on themselves. The bargains they made and the power and knowledge they gained was equivalent to the chaos wrought on this system by whispers. The queen was glad to help them clean the mess if it meant Riven would be the last living Ahamkara. Power is useful, and unique power even more so. Leona wasn't sure if she was as glad as the queen. And that's the end of that one.
This is an interesting. So again, thinking of the Ahamkara that are kind of like walking the streets with that's got to be kind of scary. I think in the Dreaming City that these things that have been kind of living and existing around all the Awoken are now like public enemy number one. Like, kill them all. Leave Riven as the last one. Like, and again, that's Mara seeing power and being, and unique power is exactly what she says. Um, to have a one of, maybe not a fantastic idea, but probably not the worst idea. Plus, the entire foundation of the Dreaming City, I think, exists because Ahamkara or because Riven helped manifest it essentially.
Essentially.
So yeah, yeah.
So this is where, if you go to the Dreaming City right now, in game, you see like this giant wall around the what would be the city proper, around like the actual buildings of the Dreaming City. We only ever really get on the outskirts and can kind of look down into it during the raid.
Yep.
But we're never actually in the city, and it's because of this big wall, and that wall was built specifically to essentially hide Riven from us.
Because I think that's one thing that's should be noted about the Last Wish. Riven is literally locked away.
Yes, Riven is imprisoned at this point, essentially.
Yeah, because the encounter at the vault, you are literally opening a combination lock to open the door to get inside to go kill Riven.
Yep.
So she's not a she's probably the only Ahamkara that isn't like a free will Ahamkara. She's literally imprisoned there.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't seem like it was always that way, but there came a point where Mara deemed it necessary to ensure that she didn't go anywhere.
Yep.
And so we can see, okay, Mara has said she's going to support them in this hunt, and she's hiding away her own Ahamkara, so that's no longer a risk of Riven being hunted down.
What was that said about the armies helping them coming from Riven?
So, it sounds like it was Riven's idea.
Holy shit!
To support this.
This is mind blowing. Even Riven is behind this idea of I will be the last one. That's gotta be some type of fucky wish shit.
Maybe.
I think so. Because why would you want to be the last of your species? I mean, granted, you would be the most powerful being in the universe, but holy shit, man.
And that is something that the lore card Riven from I believe it's the book The Dreaming City. It's not one that I had prepared tonight. It literally states, or Riven literally states, that Ahamkara don't have a relationship with each other. Like she does not care when other Ahamkara are hunted and killed. They're very solitary creatures. They don't seem to form a connection with each other.
Which is odd that they even congregated all on Venus.
Right. It makes it extra kind of abnormal that they all
Ahamkara fucking
got
weird,
together,
dude.
So, because I think they're all solitarily in pursuit of a goal, and
sure,
if one of their brethren doesn't make it, then they weren't meant to.
Yeah.
So I don't think Riven necessarily has any qualms with her species being hunted down. And yeah, so that card in particular says, if the Vanguard knew that the help the Queen rendered came at the behest of the Ahamkara Riven, armies of guardians would storm the reef.
Yeah, because then they'd
they'd assume that the Awoken have been corrupted, essentially.
Yep.
So
kill them all. That'd be the Vanguard.
Yeah.
Operative there. Yeah. No, that's crazy though to think that. But I think you're right too, because the idea that two Ahamkara. Now again, this is kind of contradicting what Wei Ning did, but I don't think that two Ahamkara could feed off of the same being, because there's just not enough energy there to sustain multiple Ahamkara. The desire to feed would be there. I could see them wanting to feed, but then in the instance of Wei Ning luring 6 more in, I'm pretty sure none of them would grow as powerful as a single one being there. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
probably not. It'd probably be split 6 ways.
Yep. That's what I was thinking.
So, but at the same time, like maybe, I mean, it could just be that guardians are that appetizing. That paracausal ability in
That's
addition
true.
to their desires, like maybe that just really is worth it. I don't know.
I mean, paracausality is a energy source in itself, I feel like. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's yeah.
So we continue to see this support from the queen in the plate of the Great Hunt, which is that Titan chess piece, and it goes like this. Joxer checked the safety on his rifle for the 9th time. Ilin of the Techian stepped out of the grayness before him. A massive, coffin-shaped container levitated at her side. You won't need that, Ilian said of the rifle. Joxer kept it in his hands. All the light and still your key motivation is fear. It's fear that drives you to ask the Queen for help. The Ahamkara are blasting and paving entire regions of Venus, he said. They wouldn't be so base. They're rewriting Venus. Whatever you want to call it, it's a problem that I can't punch. Do you have the guns that will help or not? The massive container lowered itself before the Titan. Alien lifted the lid, and pale cosmic light from within reflected off Joxer's eyes. Long rifles, close-quarter weapons, silent killers in the night. All yours to borrow, but you must return these when your hunt is complete. Why? Joxer frowned. Those are the conditions of her bargain. Take it or leave it. Her? The queen? Ilin didn't respond. Joxer shrugged and took the entire container on his back. And that's the end of that one.
The queen my ass. these are paracausal weapons. These are Ahamkara weapons made by an Ahamkara. Get the fuck out of here.
It does seem that Riven has seemingly provided the weapons that are presumably the perfect things to kill Ahamkara.
I mean, who else to ask? Like, that's that's a perfect solution. I feel like that's if I need to kill a wish dragon, I'm gonna go ask a wish dragon for something to kill a wish dragon with.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that I don't know. That seems like perfect logic. I do love that he's like, I can't punch it. This is stupid because I can't punch it. I need a gun. Clearly a Titan.
Yes. So the name Joxer might be slightly familiar to some. They would have shown up during the season of the Drifter primarily. They were one of the main kind of characters in the stories of the Gambit Prime armor and how Gambit was originally perceived as this really dangerous, like dark activity to do. And Joxer was part of the fire teams in there.
Doing all the testing for it.
Yes, yeah. And there's also seen on the Witherhoard lore tab as well. So,
well, and another big name, Ilin. She's one of the 3 Techians that were next to Mara.
Yep.
In the battle over Saturn, that tried to escape and was like, we need to run, but then Mara forgot to tell them the plan and it kind of fucked up.
kind of didn't go so well. So they're being provided these weapons, presumably by Riven. Okay, so now that they've acquired some weaponry and are, the hunt has officially begun, we see that the hunt itself raged on for seemingly many years. This was not
Here's an interesting question. Can Ahamkara or I guess would Ahamkara have any control over time?
Um, I don't think directly. Like, I I guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the extent
Because
of their wish magic is. If it
that'd
allows
be an
them to
interesting
control
thing,
time.
right? Like, because if it, like the way that Wei Ning was like, I wish for this to go on forever. Like, is that forever actually happening in real time, or is that forever in like the blink of a second? You know what I mean? Like that's
I assume
it's
that
an
it's
interesting
real
thing.
time, and that the wish to go on forever isn't that it's affecting time in any way. It's just that the Ahamkara is never actually dying. Is
Right.
never
Yep.
like defeatable.
Yep.
Uh,
The immovable object for the
right.
Titan to wail on. Yeah. Yep.
So, but yeah, maybe say they certainly have a lot of power. But yeah, so this is something. This fight rages on for a very long time. We see some really notable figures during some of the main uh, kind of battles that take place. So the first of those battles that we're going to look at is on the grips of the Great Hunt, which is the hunter gloves from Last Wish. And this one has some names you will definitely recognize. And it goes like this: Venus, 1 year into the Great Hunt. Eris and Zavala watch as Shax sat with the dying Ahamkara, a hand on its snout. Is he gloating? She asked. I think he's too pragmatic to gloat, Zavala said. Mourning, then. Perhaps. The Ahamkara twitched, and its eyes rolled up into its head. The biochemical glow just beneath its skin grew harsh. Zavala and Eris raised their hands against the increasing glare, and then the corpse exploded. Dirt showered the guardians like dusty rain on a clear day, and Shax sat silently in the resulting crater, covered in a sheen of green fire. Zavala and Eris open their mouths to speak, but Shax interrupts them. Shh, he says, as the flame quietly roars, and they could all hear a disembodied whisper, but they were used to that by now. And that's the end of that one.
The one time Shax isn't screaming, I don't know. I don't know to be scared, impressed, worried. I don't know, man. I do like that he has that respect for the thing that he has just killed.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, again, thinking of how powerful an Ahamkara is, and Shax is like, I mean, he's fucking Shax, man. Like, what
Right.
else do you say about him? So yeah, for him to have that level of respect there, I think is pretty gnarly.
Yeah. I don't think there's any explanation needed as to who those characters are.
No, nope.
So, uh, so we'll move right along to the next kind of main battle. And this is told from the strides of the Great Hunt, the hunter boots. And this one also has a very notable figure. And it goes like this: Eris and Ikora stood over a graveyard of whispering bones. An hour ago, this was a vibrant army of Ahamkara. What did they offer you? Said Eris. Her stare reached for a mile in front of them. So did the grave of bones. The same as you, I'm sure. Ikora stood, buoyed by a gentle flow of light above the whispering bones. It was easier to concentrate up here. Everything they say is true, said Eris, and Ikora looked down at her sharply. Sentiments like that leads to morbid places, she cautioned. Yes, came the reply. If you guide your light north, I will take the south. This will be quick. I think they showed me my life before my ghost. Eris, focus. Yes. And together, the guardians summoned a storm of light that consumed the bones around them. They ignored the whispers, but the voices grew louder, harsher, as the maelstrom progressed. And soon, they couldn't tell the difference between the whispers and the storm. And that's the end of that reading.
Or the screaming. Jesus. Yeah, no, like that's the whole thing with them. Like you can't, even their bones are potential wish sources. So you can't even just like have a memento of like, hey, I killed a wish dragon, because then it just doesn't stop. But no, that's an interesting thought too. That of if they really did show Eris her life before being a guardian, because even that life is like kind of questioned.
Right.
I think we tried to cover it in our Eris Morn series way back, and there's multiple points of possible. This is what Eris was before she was Eris, and so yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's an interesting thing. But they definitely they had to eradicate all these bones. Like that's just
Yeah, and
that's what they had to do.
it seems we've seen as they progress through, like the first fight that we were had a telling for, they're like, what did you whisper at me? No, did you whisper at me? And moving to, okay, the whispers are normal, we expect them now. And now moving on to, the whispers are dangerous, we are atomizing the bones as well.
Yeah.
So, uh, now we're going to move on to another notable battle here. This one has a name that some of you may not be as familiar with, but is a very notable figure nonetheless. And this one is on the age-old bond, which is the auto rifle from The Last Wish. And it goes like this. The driving bass line of a classic song from old Earth drove their prey before them. No less than half a dozen wyverns snarled and clawed at the trio as they stabbed and blasted their way through the wilds of Mars. Praedith wished hard, wished it would never end. Alongside him, Kabir was a towering giant. An awoken made weapon roared in his hands and in his head. Fionn was a force, a living embodiment of the void. Where he pointed, Ahamkara died. In the middle between them, Praedith smiled. A winged and scaled lion with a boar's tusk leapt at him, and he could swear he saw the thing wink at him as he tore it apart. But beneath the song, Praedith heard static, like a comm signal. Best not to think about it. And Praedith wished again, and the hunt went on. And that's the end of that one.
Bold move, Praedith. That's a dangerous freaking game he's playing there. Yeah, that's so the three of them, they're why we have Vault of Glass.
Yep.
Essentially, Kabir specifically is the reason why we don't get Unmade from Time. Praedith being trapped in there was the one that told us, "Hey, get the fuck in here. Please remember us. We don't want to be We don't want to be forgotten." Yep. And the third one, Pahanin, I think was his name.
Yep, Pahanin.
Ran screaming as you should.
So
and made a machine gun and was like, "This is my best friend, and it talks to me."
So fun fact about that. So yes, Pahanin is the only one of Kabir's fire team to escape the vault. Did not escape unscathed though.
No.
He
definitely some mental scarring there.
A little bit. Pahanin created the machine gun from D1 called Super Good Advice, and it was a smart machine gun that could observe and talk to him, because his experiences in the Vault of Glass convinced him that if there was not something to constantly observe him, that he would no longer exist.
And that a fucked up ass concept, but it's like so true. Like, because that's the whole thing with the Vault of Glass is the Vex literally unmake you from time. So it's
Yeah.
not even like they kill you; they made it to where you never existed. So that's like, and this has always been like this crazy fan theory, and I don't know if I'm the one that came up with it or if I've just heard it somewhere and I've repeated it so many times that I feel like I came up with it. But the original Vault of Glass team was the three of them, but it was the raid. So like, where's the other three members? They're never mentioned more than three people. So it's like, were those other three people just unmade from time and we don't know that they existed?
Yeah, if and when we ever do a deep dive on the Vault of Glass, I do believe there is a lore entry that never names names, but does allude to them having had a full fire team at one point.
Isn't that crazy? They can
Yeah.
unmake you from time. You never existed. All the interactions you ever had with people never happened. Like, holy shit. Probably worse than wish magic.
Probably a little bit. But you know, that was Praetus' wish, right? I want to keep fighting. I want this to never stop. Similar in some ways to Wei Ning's, where you know, I want this fight to never end. But perhaps his wish is what landed him in the Vault of Glass with some time fuckery going on.
That's some monkey paw wish magic there. Like,
a little bit.
I never want the fight to end. So okay, well the fight's never going to end for you. You're going to get locked in a place where you will be fighting for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
So, but not a Vault of Glass episode. So we're gonna move on.
Right.
But it is a fun little token. Now we're going to look at something still slightly Vex related, and actually something that you were thinking of last episode.
Ooh.
This is the lore card from the Apex Predator rocket launcher, and it goes like this. The massive Vex construct that was the Ahamkara towered over them, and Pt.2 tried not to be bored. Being bored might lead to idle wishes, and that would be bad right now. She thought again about the name she'd squinted at on the porcelain chiton when she'd drawn lots back at the tower. Two named guardians always struck her as a little pretentious. Galida, the warlock, didn't look up from the drawing she was making. She just held up a finger. Yes, the rear ventral plate now, please. Graciously, the construct shifted its superstructure and allowed the researcher a detailed look at the thing's internal workings. And there. The warlock turned towards Takeo. All right, you may proceed. Finally. As Galita ran clear, and the beast warbled a Vex, let out a Vex war cry, Takeo hefted the massive launcher up over her shoulder and sighted down the line. And that's the end of that lore card.
Yeah. See, I remember something. It just all jumbled together.
Yep. So this is so Takeo 3 is someone that original D2 vanilla players will recognize from the Song of Savathun strike.
I was going to say, is that the one that's leading us through that
Yep.
strike?
Yep.
Where at the very end, her like the whole time she's like, they're sucking the light out of all my fire team members. She gets down there and she's like, nope, same plan, and then she gets the light sucked out of her.
Yep. That is the same Takeo 3.
Okay.
And Galita, who is her full name, as Takeo mentioned, she has two names, which is pretentious, I guess.
I mean, aren't all warlocks? Ikora Ray.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Oh,
but this
says
is
the two warlocks mains in the chat.
but this is Galita Turiet is her full name. And although a lesser known figure in the lore, she is the creator of the gun from Destiny 1 called Pocket Infinity. So,
Oh man, that you want to talk about a game-breaking gun?
yeah.
There's a reason stuff like that won't ever come back. Like that's you can't do that in a video game. Like I mean you can, but it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Pocket Infinity was real cool and real busted.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, so we're going to move on to another battle with some notable names. This one is from the Chattering Bone Pulse Rifle. And actually, real quick, I'm pretty sure the guns that we get in the raid, the Chattering Bone, Apex Predator, so on and so forth, um, I think these are the actual guns that were given to the Guardians during the Great Hunt by Riven. I think these
I
are
think
the
you're right.
Ahamkara killing guns.
I think you're right. I 100% feel like you are. Yeah, I think that's what they are. They have they all the guns from the Last Wish, which I absolutely love their aesthetic. They all have like this bone combined with like
Mm-hmm.
the the Oracle engine style background, kind of rotating around a map like thing of the galaxy.
Yep.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think they're very much. I think they're what was it? That's what was in this crate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So these next two that we're going to talk about from Chattering Bone have a little different experience with an Ahamkara. It's not necessarily a fight in the classic sense. So this one goes like this. Nadia sipped her tea, calm and collected. Shinobu sat back, looking perplexed. Really? The entire summer? The serpent that claimed to look like her mother sat across from the two of them, smiling broadly. Why would I lie? I'm telling you, the whole summer you wore that dress. We had to tackle you to get the thing off, get you to bathe. The serpent plucked the dainty cup from the white saucer and set it to her lips before continuing. Your brother called you stink bug for years until, well, you know. Nadia reached over and took the other hunter's hand in her own. It would lie because it's fulfilling your wish, Nobu. And Shinobu searched the serpent's face. Her mother just smiled again, all teeth and secrets. Shinobu felt tears at the corners of her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. Okay. Now. The burst from the pulse rifle was loud, and Nadia pulled the trigger again and again and again. That's the end of that lore card.
Ooh, a battle of wits or a battle of emotions. I don't know, like maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of temptation here. Like
Yeah.
it seems like more guardians than just Eris are curious about what their lives were before they were a guardian.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, how could you not be? Like, that's what always kind of like blows my mind with Guardians. Like, so
Right.
many Guardians just like they get res and they just accept it. But there's very few that like get res and are like, hold the fuck on here. Something's not right. Like this is weird. Like it's different.
Yeah. And for Shinobu, and this is the
Yep.
Shinobu from
That one
Shinobu's
I did
Vow,
know.
by
What
the
what was
way.
the other one though?
Um,
Not Nadia?
so Nadia. So Nadia is a member of Shinobu's fire team. They show up in the Shinobu's Vow, as well as
Oh, okay.
the
Okay.
Six Coyote exotic. Because I think the group that Shinobu
Yep.
is in is called the Six Coyotes. But yeah, not Nadia is a traveling companion. Um, And yeah, this is temptation. This is literally a guardian getting to sit down with the parent they never knew and be regaled with stories of their childhood, their past, these things that they don't have.
That's still such an odd concept to me, right? Like, you don't even have a memory of this. How
Yeah.
could you want of this? But I don't know, man. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, and I think that's what, Nadia is saying is like this, you have no way to know that what this thing is telling you is correct. It could be lying through its teeth
Yeah.
just because it could be telling you the version of your childhood that you wish you had.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's the truth.
Wish dragons are bad, yo.
Yeah. And so Shinobu finally, kind of breaks out of it enough to, let Nadia take care of it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So moving on to the next fight here. This was also a little bit of a little different scenario. So this is on the Nation of Beasts, which is the hand cannon from the Last Wish raid. And this one has some figures that you may not know the names of, but you definitely know their exploits. So this one goes like this. She held the handgun pressed against Liu Feng's head. Orios blinked back through the sweat. Liu Feng held the handgun against Orios's head. She shivered. Across the river, as if in a mirror, another Liu Feng and another Orios looked back at them. 2 Liu Fangs, 2 Orioses, 4 handguns. The Liu Fang that was cold opened her mouth. I wish. And then the shooting started. And when it stopped, only the true guardians still lived. And they stared at each other from across the river. How did you know? Liu Fang asked. I could feel the heat of the forge on my skin. Oreo shook her head. You could not? Liu Fang shook her head also. Forget these tricksters. They can teach us nothing. And you have so much left to learn. And that's the end of that entry.
This is the classic, like, no, shoot him. He's the real. Oh,
Yeah.
how do you tell? Well, what's my birthday? Shit, I don't remember. Oh, that's the fake one. Yeah, maybe you'll remember my goddamn birthday, asshole. Yeah, that's exactly what just played out here.
Yeah. So to explain this a little bit though, Oreos is saying I knew which one of you was the real one because I could feel the heat of the forge. To explain that a little bit, Oreos is the third magistrate of the Sunbreakers of the Titan Order, the Sunbreakers. And the forge is referred to as that's what they call their solar light.
If I'm not mistaken, it's also in D1. In D2, the PvP map is Burnout. I can't remember the original name of it, but I believe that forge is on Mercury.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
And that's where they get their powers, or that's where the first Sunbreakers got their solar powers from.
Yeah. So Oreos is saying, I didn't feel the solar light in that version of you, so that's the one I shot.
I mean, I guess on the flip side, they could all just shoot each other until everyone's dead, and then the ghosts would just pop out and be like, "Well, we're as the real ones."
Yeah, that's a strategy too. But yeah, so Oreos is their claim to fame is that they were this leader of the Sunbreakers who Liu Fang was a part of, the Sunbreaker Order. Liu Fang, we all know her exploit as a weapon manufacturer because she created the Sunshot.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful hand cannon if you have not used it already.
I
I
I
highly recommend
I
it.
fight myself on it just because I like Polaris Lance in that slot. I also like Vex in that slot, but no, shoot, I want to say that long was that a D? I can't remember if that was a D1 gun or not.
Sunshot, it was D2.
That
D2
was
vanilla.
D2 vanilla because I remember like
Yeah.
if you played the beta and you played a hunter, that was the exotic that they gave you was the Sunshot. That's a good little hand cannon.
It was. It still is. Um, but yeah, so another kind of like more cerebral
Yeah,
challenge or fight versus just, kill things.
yeah.
Although we're going to return to that in a epic fashion with the next fight, which takes place in the Transfiguration lore card, which is the scout rifle. This one has names that you will most definitely know, and it goes like this. You're sure you want to keep on with the axe? Aphrodite asked, reloading her rifle. The voice in her comms was barely winded, even as the Iron Lord leapt to avoid a plume of white-hot fire. That's why she gave her to me. I'm one of the only... A globule of light licked past Aphrodite's helmet, and she tugged at her clasp, shrugging free the now burning cloak. Why in the Traveler's Crack did you wish to fight an actual dragon, old man? Saladin Forge grinned inside his helmet, and the enormous worm towered above them, bleeding wounds covering its gleaming scales as it reared up for another breath. The massive axe in his hands was dented, scarred, and melted at the tip, but it still held an edge. We are knights, Lady Aphrodite. Do you not want to be a dragon slayer? And he charged, and his words could barely be heard over the creature's cry. We are what we survive. And that's the end of that one.
Fuck yeah, dude! This is an epic one, man. Like I imagine Saladin. So like in my head, Saladin was a D&D player, and he's like, fight dragons, kill them all, let's go. So yeah, I don't know why it fits so perfectly. Like why like of anyone in the Destiny universe, like why would it not be Saladin fighting a dragon with a big two-handed axe and be like, let's go? Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know why. That just made sense to me.
Yeah, this one just feels fun. It
It
feels like
is.
a really cool one. And I think this may be the originator of one of Saladin's phrases where some of his like idle chatter, if you sit in the tower around Iron Banner time, I don't know if he still does, but he used to say like, your light is a dragon, feed it.
Oh,
Um, I
nice.
think I think that's kind of where some of this is coming from is,
Yeah.
he's testing his power against a dragon,
I
and
like it.
therefore, you know, you are what you survive.
I love
So
it. I love it. He's very much because I mean that's kind of like what like the Iron Lords have that like vibe to them, right?
yeah,
that like Knights of the Round feeling. So like very
yep,
medieval, very much like why wouldn't you want to fight a dragon and survive it? Duh.
right. Like this is a once in a lifetime chance, Aphrodite. What? Why wouldn't you
Why
be
wouldn't
doing
you?
this?
Yeah, I love the logic in that too. Like, why the fuck wouldn't I fight a dragon? Duh. Like, no, that's not. No, that's not how that works.
So the one of the final fights that we're going to talk about here comes to us from the Tyranny of Heaven, which is the Last Wish bow. And this one also plays out a little differently, and the implications for it are much wider reaching. So this one goes like this. Tallulah Fairwind smoothed the felt of the table with one hand, idly playing with her chips with the other. Across the table, Caliban 8 wore a green dealer's cap and looked stricken. The Ahamkara looked like somebody's kindly old grandpa just now, and it could play a mean hand of cards. 20, it croned as it raised the stakes. she saw Caliban's eye sensors dilate. The game had started so well, and it seemed like a great story they could have told back at the tower. How was she supposed to have known? Cole, said Caliban, tension in his voice. She looked down at her hand. All in. The Ahamkara's grin grew large, and Caliban shook his head. Don't do this, Lula. Don't you leave me here. I can't do it. And the cards went down. She lost. The Hunter Vanguard tossed her bow to the Exo as the Ahamkara came around the table to collect his winnings. And there's a dare, man. Good luck. She didn't scream. It wouldn't have been dignified. And that's the end of that one.
Well, shit. What was it? Dead Man's Hand, aces and eights?
They don't say, but
I bet it was. So now this is a Vanguard dare, or this is the Hunter dare, right?
yeah. So Tallulah was the Hunter Vanguard at the time.
Yep.
Caliban 8, which we may know from Caliban's hand, the exotic armor piece. And that armor piece is alluding to his hand in the card game.
Yep.
And apparently the Hunter dare was whoever survives the card game is the new Vanguard Hunter.
That's always the Hunter thing, because no Hunter wants to be the Vanguard.
No.
That's what it is.
And Tallulah lost. And it seems when she went all in, I think that was including herself.
Yeah. Tasty.
So the
tasty Hunter
Ahamkara
treat.
collected.
Do you think Ahamkara would physically eat a human?
I mean, I don't know if either that or like suck the energy out of them, or I'm not sure exactly how that would go down, but
That's just freaky.
I mean, they could eat a human. Yeah. I mean, they can transform into whatever they want.
I love that's the argument to it. Like, yeah, they can do whatever the fuck they want. They're wish dragons.
pretty much, yeah.
I like it.
So these we don't have lore cards for, but there are two other battles that I wanted to touch on. And those are battles that we see not play out, but discussed in the Witch Queen Collector's Edition books. And those two battles are from Ikora's point of view. The first battle is one fought with an Ahamkara that we actually talked about last episode, Azarim.
Oh, we didn't like him.
We did not like him. He led a bunch of Awoken to their deaths in the Dreaming City and escaped.
Yeah.
So here we get to see what became of him. So Ikora says, when I battled Azarim, he defeated me. He showed me that he can make all my desires real, and I succumbed. It was Wei Ning who broke me out of the trance of creation I had fallen into. Moments before I manifested a wish from the quantum vacuum. 4 dead strangers returned to life, forgiven their desperate grasp for my ghost, so that I could forgive myself for how quickly and lethally I had responded. If I had finished the wish and fashioned them, I would have annihilated myself. I would have annihilated myself and everything around us. What Wei Ning did was punch me in the head so gently that I only got a concussion. So that's the end of that entry.
Fucking Titans. She punched me so gingerly that I only got a concussion. I didn't get my entire skull caved in because that's what a Titan would do.
Yeah. So a little backstory on Ikora here. She, apparently killed a bunch of people when they made a grab for her ghost. And it seems like perhaps in retrospect, she they weren't as much of a threat as she thought they were in the moment, or whatever it may be, she regrets that action. And her wish would have been to bring them back to life.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a good thing.
That wouldn't have worked out well, I'm sure.
Nope.
And thankfully, before she was able to do that, Wei Ning saw that she was, succumbing to the temptation and just lightly tapped Boop. Her into unconsciousness.
You think it made that same sound? Boop! Right on the noggin.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the Titans version of like boop in the nose. They just boop.
Yep.
You silly warlock. Boop.
Boop. You sleep now.
You sleep now. I like that. I like that idea of just a Titan just boop. You sleep now.
Yep.
But it worked.
But so it did. It worked. It broke her out of the ability of making a wish, and presumably Azarim was killed at the hands of Wei Ning.
Yeah. Bad Ahamkara. Leading people off.
Bad Ahamkara.
Walking people off cliffs with singing and shit.
I know. What the heck, man? But the last battle that we want to discuss here, also from the Witch Queen Collector's Edition, also from Ikora's point of view, is later on in the fight. This is after Azarim, and she has learned from her dealings with the first Ahamkara. And so she says, "When I battled Midir, he tried the same trick as Azarim. But I simply became someone else. I do not mean that I pretended to be someone else. I mean that I allowed Midir to change me into someone that Midir could not tempt. I laugh much less since that day, but I find I am more content." And that's the end of that one.
That's an interesting wish.
Yeah.
Like, we've always looked at these from the perspective of like a want and a desire and all that stuff. But if you can look at it like subjectively and be like, well, I just wish to be somebody that can't succumb to the desires of a wish dragon. That's fucking brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
That's the epitome of warlock logic, right? Like, how do I outthink the thinker? Like, I love it. Like, I don't think anybody realizes like how smart and how powerful Ikora Rey is. Like,
yeah,
there's a reason she's banned from the Crucible.
Yes. And it's interesting to think, prior to the hunt, prior to this battle with Midir, she personality-wise was perhaps completely different than what she is now.
Because who's to say that like, there's nothing to say that wish was like a temporary state, right? Like that.
Right.
That should be. I say should be. Again, trying to apply logic to wish magic. That's
well, and she even says as much. She says, "I laugh much less since that day."
Yeah.
Implying to me that it was
this is a permanent change, permanent shift.
Permanently changed her perspective, her thought process, her personality. Something about her being changed, and the Ikora Rey of the Dark Ages and the early City Age before this could have been a very different Ikora.
Interesting.
So, but with that, the hunt has completed. And we see this in the D1 Grimoire card entitled Ghost Fragment Legends 3. And it kind of gives a summary of the whole thing, but it says, "After great deliberation, it was determined that the Ahamkara be made extinct. It was not an easy decision. Power had been obtained from the bargains, and the city needed power. Knowledge had been gleaned, and the Ahamkara knew answers to questions no one had even known to ask. But the price was too high, and no edict or forbearance seemed to stop guardians from seeking them out, driven by hope or vengeance or despair. The call had to be silenced. And so the great hunt did its work. And thus the Ahamkara were made extinct, their call silenced, their flatteries erased, their great design, if it ever existed, broken. Of this you can be assured, O reader mine. And that's the end of that one.
Lies! All filthy, stinking lies! Oh, reader mine. They know, myth. They know that we're reading about them.
So, as is implied here, the Vanguard believed, and they were very successful in the eradication of Ahamkara, but they weren't all gone. So, but the Ahamkara, now that they are gone, so far as Guardians are concerned, enter this realm of myth and legend. They were these ancient beings that used to exist, and now it's, they're just rumor about, oh, I saw one here, or so and so said that they know somebody that saw one here, kind of thing. And we see one of those rumors on the D1 helmet entitled "The Long Tomorrow 9G," and just the flavor text on it says, "Some of them survived. I know a fellow says he saw a wish dragon on Jupiter a ways back." So there's this constant like rumor mill about seeing them, kind of a la Bigfoot or whatnot. And I will also put here that it squashes dreams a little bit, but the flying creators on Venus.
Don't you say it, myth.
The flying creatures on Venus.
Don't you fucking say it.
That you can see in D1 and even at the very entry to the Vault of Glass in D2 were confirmed by the devs during their Venus ride along to not be Ahamkara.
Lies. But these are lies fed to you by Bungie. The conspiracy continues. They are totally living there.
So, needless to say, we in that same way are feeding into those rumors and myths about like, oh, we saw this flying thing on Venus.
I totally saw it. I saw 2 of them.
Yeah. So we have this question now of, are they really gone? We have a few here that we're going to talk about. So we know that we know a few Ahamkara that are important in some way still to the game world. The first one is Hugin, who is presumed killed during the Great Hunt. Their bones are in the Dreaming City, in the Harbinger's Seclude. And an interesting fact about Hugin is that according to Shurochi, during some of the like Dreaming City patrols that you can do, when Hugin was alive, he would travel to the Harbinger's Seclude and rest there, and the Awoken would come and congregate around him, and he would recite the Awoken's own like mythological stories to them, like tell the stories of their origins to their children,
like
and
like
such.
the Ager Scepter story, like the that's cool.
So Hugin was like this storyteller for the Awoken, which I thought was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the presumed like brother or sister to Hugin is Munin, and we're assuming they're related because of the relation between Hugin and Munin, the ravens of Odin in Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting here is that both Hugin and Munin died side by side along with Shir Ido. And we talked about this a little bit during our Awoken series, as well as our Shir Ido specific episodes. not really sure how that played out. We're not sure if they were friends or foes. It seems like probably friendly to the Awoken, at least at one point. Um, and so, like, why were they found dead near the body of Sheer? Were they all three fighting something and they all succumbed to it? Was Sheer
Well, and
fighting them
not
for
even the
some
body, right?
reason?
Like they just found the bow.
No, they found her body.
The body was found. Okay, I couldn't remember if the
Yeah,
body was missing or not. Because that was the other thing
yeah,
too. Is like the whole like lost, like betrayed, betrayed,
right.
betrayed, betrayed.
Yeah, yeah. But they do specifically say that they found her body.
Okay.
Next to Hugin and Moonin, and when they were found, when the Ahamkara were found, their bones were silent.
Ooh, that's a powerful thing to have. To
Yeah.
silence the bones of an Ahamkara.
So the next one that we're going to talk about is one that D2 players may not actually know about.
Oh, this might be
and that is AO.
AO. Wait.
AO.
Oh, that's right.
So we know about AO from D1 from the equipment that AO was a part of. The bones of AO was a hunter exotic, but AO actually played a bigger part of the Dreaming City than we may know.
Like help build it, or
Not quite build it, but frequented it quite a
Okay.
bit from the sounds of it. And so we have from the Dreaming City patrols from Shiro Chi. She says when we get to a particular location, I think it's in the gardens or somewhere similar. She says this was once a resting place for the Ahamkara Ao, who loved stories. He would recite all of our myths, name all of our heroes. And that's where we went wrong. We should have never trusted him to keep our secrets. He crept out of the dreaming city and went to whisper in the ears of warlocks who wondered who we were. And so we had to kill him. The warlocks, too. Shure hunted him down and skewered him for his deceit. And one of your warlocks bartered for his corpse and traded away his bones. Another mistake on our part. You must never scatter the bones. So this is an Ahamkara that's similar to Hugin, enjoyed stories and gathering knowledge about the Awoken, but Ao tried to use it as a bargaining chip to make other deals outside of the Dreaming City. And it's mentioned in our Awoken series, and the episodes about Shure, that Shure was known as the enforcer of the Ahamkara. Like if an Ahamkara betrayed the Awoken, it was her job to hunt it down.
Yeah.
And this is one such instance where she is the reason Ao died. And a warlock essentially bought his corpse from the Awoken and then turned it into the bones of Ao exotic, as well as there are other items in D1 called the scales of Ao and the knuckles of Ao that were used as like the knuckles, I think, guaranteed an exotic drop at the end of a raid. And the scales did something. They may have been an artifact for Titans. There weren't lore cards for those, and even Bones of Ao doesn't have a lore card that's relevant to the Ahamkara. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of cool to see where all that came from.
Yeah.
Were there other Ahamkara that you wanted to mention?
There are. Okay, so I guess these aren't really Ahamkaras, but the 40 eggs that we kill to make
the corrupted eggs,
the corrupted omelet, yeah. To get your sparrow, the taken sparrow, and then the 41st egg that I almost forgot
that
about.
we don't know where it's gone or what is happening.
Clue
with it.
About it in the season of the Lost, right before Witch Queen, where you could visit Marasov's chamber, in one of the side chambers, if you jumped up a little bit and looked through the bars, there's a corrupted egg sitting back there, and it's like,
Yep.
well, shit, what the hell is this doing here? So presumably there is a like Riven was the last Ahamkara, or were they? Like I don't know.
Right.
That's just messed up, Bungie.
Another thing that we know here, not only are kind of like these notable Ahamkara and the big hunt is over and done with, and they're presumed dead, although don't think they're really all gone.
I don't think so.
We have a few pieces of lore here that tell us that no, they're not all gone, and that there's another party within the Soul System that has a very vested interest in the Ahamkara. So we have, I'm gonna read off a couple entries here, or portions of a couple entries here. The first one is Oathkeepers, the exotic hunter gloves. And we've read these before in relation to Shir Ido, but these are the ones that say, in relation to the death of Shir Ido, someone is breaking that news to Mara. And this person is saying, "This was on her body, Your Grace." And a strange coin lay at the center of Abra's outstretched palm. Mara took it between thumb and forefinger and held it up to the cosmos with dainty contempt. Wergild, she thought, and powerful grief filled her chest. And her bow, gone. Hugin and Moonin, the Ahamkara are dead, and their bones are silent.
Like that's like the connection to the 9, right? Like that's like the
right.
I mean the strange coin. That's what you used to give to Zur. I think you still do it in the Dares of Eternity. Yeah. Well, I guess you give it to the horse now. But yeah, like that's like their currency for us to exchange with the 9.
Right. So this in relation to Shir's death, and Hugin and Moonin died, with her, or in the same, were found in the same place. And we know that the 9 left this coin. And Mara refers to as Wergild, which is a term for, it's an older term, back when the death of a person could be paid off with financial compensation as a means of reparation. And so like Wergild, if a war happened and a particular noble was killed, like that would sometimes enact a certain amount of money be sent to them by the killer as a means of repairing that relationship.
It's
quote
like
unquote.
It's like an oh shit thing. Like this person died.
Kinda, sorta.
Like shit. How do we not start another war within the war type thing? So okay. So taking that meaning, and again, I'm gonna spin foil a little bit, thinking of where this coin was found, who it was found on, the entities that were near her. Is it possible to say that the 9 wanted either something from the Ahamkara, Mugen and Hugin, or were wanting to help eradicate the Ahamkara, and Shirochi was just a byproduct, or not a byproduct, what would you call that? Collateral damage.
Yeah, Shir Ido, by the way.
Did I say? Damn it.
But yeah, I'm kind of leaning more towards that one personally, that they took action against the Ahamkara, and that Shir happened to be wrong place, wrong time,
Sure.
and whatever that action was, she was collateral.
Okay.
And if the question that people have is why would the 9 want to do anything to the Ahamkara? The answer comes from the uh, lore entry called Re-Extinction from the book The Dreaming City. And it is a conversation of the nine. And the nine are talking amongst themselves. They're saying, "She has ruined everything. Such blind arrogance. We are lost. Hurry. We will recruit them all if he will recruit them all if we do not act now. What can we do? Done cannot be undone. Everything is lost. Kill them where they creep and crawl, and let their bones whisper not. The children, they are not our children. We have no time for sentiment. It is this, or we lay ourselves bare before the veil. No, no, we must, before he takes them all. Imagine his power. Reach together now, that our touch be lethal. We will it so. The dreamer is lost. Cull the rest, that our judgment be true. We will it so.
There's a lot to unpack in that.
Yeah, it's a little hard to follow because this is literally like 9 different voices having this discussion.
I
all
love
kind of completing each other.
I love these the lore entries where it is the 9 talking. If you ever get a chance to go look them up, and this is one of them, look it up and look at the format that it's being written in. It's like one of them is in all lowercase, but all the letters are spaced out with a space in between the letters. Another one, all the words are one long continuous run-on words. Another one, all the letters are all caps. Another one has like every other letter is capital. Another one is like all italicized. Like it's a really neat way to distinguish 9 different entities. And we talked about this in the series that we did on the 9 of how we theorize that they are the entities of the soul system, and then like the guy talking in all caps is Jupiter because he's the biggest, he's the greatest, and then like the guy talking in like spaced out letters is like Saturn because there's rings and they're spaced out or something like that. You know, like it's or the guy talking really small, he's Mercury because that's the smallest of them. Like it's this really neat like word association thing to all the entities there to kind of like lead more credence to that. But then like here where they're talking about before he takes them all, there's only one guy in all of creation that takes well, one guy that we know of. And that being Oryx, the Taken King. Because, and again, this is kind of like a questionable thing. Can the witness take? I mean, I presume so, because that's where Oryx learned it from.
Right. I assume Oryx learned it from the witness,
but
and
we've
therefore
never
the
seen
witness
him
can
do it.
To be fair, we have never seen the witness do much of anything. To be honest,
he vivisected 3 guardians and their ghosts and their ships, and then drew a funky triangle and disappeared. That's all we've seen.
So,
maybe.
To go back to this entry though, so they're saying she has ruined everything. Such blind arrogance. She's talking about Mara there. Presumably Mara's assistants, perhaps, in the Great Hunts. As we talked about in our 9 series, the 9 were invested in the Ahamkara because the 9 are incorporeal, and they want to be corporeal. They no longer want to be tied to their celestial bodies. They want to exist outside of that. And they saw the Ahamkara as a potential route to do that.
Yep.
But here, they're recognizing Oryx is coming.
Yeah.
And if he gets here and if he takes and controls the Ahamkara, that's the end of everything.
That's the end of existence.
Yeah. And so what they're saying here, is that the only thing they can do is kill them where they creep and crawl and let their bones whisper not.
Silence them all.
So they are actively reaching out with whatever influence they have to whatever Ahamkara still exists in the soul system, and somehow killing them where they are. And
and
not just
silencing
killing
them.
them where they are, yeah, silencing their bones. And remember, Hugin and Munen's bones did not whisper when they found them.
That's just mind
So
blowing.
I'm of the mindset that the 9 killed Hugin and Munen as part of this. Sure, and it happened to be traveling with them and was collateral from whatever caused that death.
Yep. I'm this is yeah. All the logic points to that. So
Yeah.
I'm on board with this.
And they do say that they can't reach Riven. Said the dreamer is lost,
Yep.
call the rest.
And I guess that's kind of an important thing too. Like, spoiler alert, Riven is taken. Like, one of the Ahamkara did get taken. That's why there are corrupted eggs all over the Dreaming City that you have to go kill. Like, you as the player are helping with this culling, albeit way later in time.
Yeah.
With the use of Shiraido's bow to wish ender to end all the wishes.
Yeah. So let's dig into that a little bit. So we're going to now get into Riven specifically and Riven dealing with Oryx. And the events of the Taken King and the fallout from it. So we're not going to dive too much into Oryx's side of things, but Riven's side of things is very interesting.
Okay.
So we're going to start with the hood of the Great Hunt, which is the Warlock helmet from Last Wish. And it goes like this. I have been here 100 cycles. 1,000? I cannot recall. Before the Queen came often to visit, we made bargains. Most of those who bargain with me do not win. We take care with those. It is how we feed. But she won. I remember when I carved this cage into the face of reality. I remember when she wished me into it. But the Queen is vulnerable now. I can see her, far away, facing into a storm. The light around my cage fades. Darkness fills the chamber as a sheer force of will passes over it. And before me stands a king, and he offers to take me away. But I know he will not let me leave either. An unfavorable position. But I've never made a bargain with a king. I would like to try. So I tell him to take whatever he wishes, as long as he wishes it. And he agrees, and I make an ugly sound with my mandibles. I cannot help myself. I find this scenario mirthful. And then so does he. We do it together. Loud gusts of sound from our faces for whole moments. Most of those who bargain with me do not win. And that's the end of that card.
Ooh, dude, this is pretty cool.
So this is the secret behind how Riven was taken, but did not lose herself.
Yeah. Because that's like the big thing, right? Like, if you're taking, and we talked about this when we covered the stasis stuff in Strand, of like, taking is like taking someone's will, and their will is no longer their own, and that's the whole thing.
Right.
But somehow Riven still had her will, like she was still able to talk to us throughout the entire Last Wish raid, and like kind of like egg us on and antagonize us the whole time. But it's because like Oryx had to take her via a wish. Like, Like,
Yep. He had to
what the
wish
hell?
to
Like,
take her.
that's like the ultimate like catch-22. I love it.
Yep. So she was taken and was influenced by that power, but because it was a wish that she has control over, she didn't
That's
lose
just
her
fucking
will to
awesome.
it. Uh and this final moment of them, like, described somewhat weirdly as like loud gusts of sound come from our faces. I think that's literally Oryx is feeding off the power he got from taking an Ahamkara, but at the same time, she is feeding off the power of
I
such
like it.
a large
I like
wish.
it.
And that last line, most of those who bargain with me do
Yeah.
not
I
win.
also thought of it as like the two of them are laughing because they both like both parties are
Could be
convinced
that
that
too.
they've won, like, but neither side knows that the
They've
other
won.
side's
Yeah.
like. I mean, maybe Riven has a little bit of an upper hand here. I feel like she does, but like, holy shit, this is so cool.
Yeah. So we see this is her meeting with Oryx and Oryx taking Riven. We progress the timeline a little further.
And real quick, that event happened literally at the exact same time as the Battle of Saturn, correct? The taking of Riven, because that's like the fading of the lights. That to me that was like Mara dying. Uh, like her
Yeah.
will is no
Yeah.
longer like helping keep Riven caged, and therefore Oryx was able to slip in kind of like through a back door. That was
Right.
my kind of like understanding of
Yeah.
how he got there, because it like and again, he could have just walked through the ascended plane and appeared there, and that's basically what happened. Uh, so yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So it would have been shortly after that fight. Um and this is shortly after we finish our deed in King's Fall. Um and the gloves of the Great Hunt go like this. I am a king no longer. The king's corpse hangs in orbit above a world I will never see, not from this cage. I am riven, I am taken, and I am beholden to no one and no thing. I have not spoken in years. I think about what inflection I would use if I did, but no one is there. The king's voice faded long ago. No voice comes to mind. The king despaired in his final moments. Rightly so. His vengeance denied. Most of those who bargain with me do not win. And I am afflicted by tedious repetition. That's the end of that one.
ooh,
So, Riven seems to have had some kind of like mental link
yeah,
with Oryx through this taking process. So she felt at one time like she says, "I am a king no longer," kind of implying that she had either some influence over Oryx or could see through his eyes to a degree.
yeah,
Um, and then we killed him.
yeah. My corpse is floating over a world I will never see. Him
Yeah.
floating off over Saturn. Yeah,
And so now she is taken, but has no master. She's not beholden to anything, and she's bored.
that's so
Like,
weird. Like, but it makes sense. But like, that's weird to be a taken entity that still has its will and
yeah,
it's stuck. Is this okay? So her boredom had to have been what led to her corrupting Uldren.
but to try and free her from the cage. Yeah,
Okay,
I think is
that was
what
the
is
ultimate
happening
goal: is
there.
like get her out of the cage so she wouldn't be bored anymore, and therefore this is a way to do it. is
Yep.
is to corrupt Aldrin and have him just basically walk up and open the damn door.
Yeah.
Hey, you know the combination of this lock, right? Oh, I sure do. Hey, you want to come open it?
So, but she's not alone, although she's bored. We see from the boots of the Great Hunt, which are the warlock boots, she has some company, though not good company. They say, the Techians are poor company. Like me, they are taken, but I am riven. My thoughts are my own. They do not speak to me. When they open their mouths, they emit ugly, incomprehensible sounds. I am afflicted by tedious repetition. But today, I have a visitor. She reminds me of the king, yet subtler. Nothing announces her arrival. Her will does not flow through the system in open challenge against her enemies, though there are many here she would call enemy. And her will would not flow, it would crash. I did not notice her. That means the light did not notice her. She knows that I am taken, that I am beholden to no one. So I ask her if she wishes to take up those strings. And she does. And I take a new shape. My cage loses its purpose. I can tell this is not a part of her grand design. This is an introduction. She is at play. And through our new bond, I glimpse her intention. And I hope she remains at play. Most of those who bargain with me do not win. She releases vibrant, unrestrained laughter. I do not. And that's the end of that one.
Is that Savathun?
That's Savathun.
Is that Savathun? Fuck yeah. Well, the
So,
Techians are pretty obvious. That's the first two bosses.
yep.
Shiro Chi and Callie, the other two of the Techians that were with Mara.
Yep.
So yeah.
So yeah, Savathun makes her way to Riven and apparently makes a wish to control Riven.
Yeah.
In a way that Riven does not win the bargain.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy.
That's and like her laughing there. That's what made me think of like the two of them, like the king and Riven laughing.
Yeah.
Like in this one, Savathun is laughing, Riven is not because she's like, shit.
Yeah.
I just lost at my own game. What do I do?
But she can now see into the kind of thoughts or being of Savathun and is wants her to keep doing whatever she's planning because Riven finds it interesting and worthy of seeing to its conclusion.
Yeah, that's a mine that I don't want to be in. Savathun's mine is going to be like a crazy house.
Yeah, no thank you. So we're going to finish off with our time with Riven, with the Bond of the Great Hunt, which is the Warlock class item. And it explains Riven's point of view as we finish the Last Wish raid. And it says this: I am Riven, and I am pleased. The Techians believe that with my heart in tow, I will remain imprisoned. But my bargain with them is fulfilled, and they will pay. This city will pay. But what about you, brother slayer, spawn killer, child of light? What will you do now that we are bonded for all your lives. I gave you everything you wanted in that moment, everything you needed. You complete your raid, and you are rewarded for your efforts. Did you exhibit a violent display in the aftermath? I wonder. Some of you do. Everyone wants more than they have, a key element of all bargains. You are afflicted by tedious repetition, and it is my turn to benefit. Most of those who bargain with me do not win, O murderer mine. And that's the end of that one.
Well, shit. I guess all guardians are any guardian that completes the raid is fucked.
Pretty much, yep.
Even if you didn't complete the raid.
Yep. So this is interesting though. So it seems to be that the taking of the Dreaming City is not necessarily a planned thing by Savathun.
Yeah.
It almost seems like the curse on the city is purely Riven's doing partly out of spite, I think, of being taken advantage of for so long to build the city.
Yeah.
And partly out of Riven's collecting on the wishes she's granted.
Yep.
And this is how she's decided the bill is due. Now she may have done that knowing that Savathun could take advantage of it in some way.
I was going to say, because that's like the big theory with it. Like that's the entire Truth to Power book, is that the entire Dreaming City curse of the 3-week cycle is actually of Quoria's doing, because Quoria at that point in time is taken and was gifted to Savathun, and therefore Savathun is using that as a battery to power whatever she's powering. That's the big is that what Truth to Power is really talking about? But it seems that it's more of Riven just kind of fucking with us.
I think it's a situation that Riven did of her own accord, that either Riven did it knowing that Savathun could further the suffering, or Savathun, once it happened, went, oh, I can take advantage of this.
Right, because Riven saw into Savathun and saw the plan.
Right.
And was like, I'll let her play her game, but then lost. And so this is her way of okay, well, I lost, but did I really lose?
Right. So the city, the curse of the city is one piece. The other piece of this is Riven is now bound to us forevermore.
That's the that's the part where we're fucked.
Yeah.
Oh, murderer mine. Yeah, that's us. We're the murderer. We killed her. We're screwed.
So, to finish things out here, we have a couple more readings, and just real quick, I want to go through a little bit of a timeline, because we've talked about a lot over our last 2 episodes, this episode and the last one, and I want to just really highlight some of the things that Ahamkara have confirmedly done that have affected the universe as a whole in Destiny.
Okay.
So, number 1, Callus's wish.
Yeah.
And I thought about this a little more, and I think maybe his wish was to love himself.
Aww.
And that brought about Keidel's birth, because he saw in her something that he could mold into a being that would forever be dependent on him, would love him unconditionally, and in doing so he smothered her to get, and ended up with the exact opposite response.
Yeah.
And he also has the undying loyalty of his clone army.
Oh yeah, yeah. Not a
So
single one of the Shadow Legion question him.
right. So in a way, that is still loving himself, even if it's a
Yeah,
clone of himself.
yeah.
Um, so I feel like his wish was something along those lines. But regardless, that one wish and the unknown countless wishes of emperors before him that may have had access to the bone have have put the Cabal where they are today. If those
Yeah.
didn't happen, the Cabal would have gone a completely different route.
Let it could have been the what led him to the Scions, and the Oxot, like the
Yep.
all of that. Yeah. Everything that Cabal are built on is built on a wish, a wish granting bone.
Yes. Number 2. Aldrin wished to find the lie made real to help Mara. He found Riven.
Boom.
So the entire founding of the Dreaming City, literally everything to deal with Riven and the Dreaming City and the Mara's throne world, all of that stemmed off this one desire to find this thing. And oh, look, there's this little dragon that does exactly what I need.
Yeah.
Uh, and I do wonder, perhaps his eventual corruption from the Black Garden, and which led to his manipulation by Riven, was Riven calling in the price for that wish
Oh, sure.
later down the line.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then that directly led to all the events of Forsaken.
Jesus.
Praedyth wished to fight forever, which could have led to him being trapped in Vault of Glass, and therefore us eventually finding ourselves in Vault of Glass.
And he literally, like, even like today, presumably he is still fighting in Vault of Glass. He is trapped in there for eternity.
Yeah, somewhere, somewhen, he's still in there. The next one would be Ikora, using her wish to literally change into someone that Ahamkara could not tempt, altering
Still blowing my
herself
mind.
forever. We have Tallulah, who gambled with the Ahamkara, which led to Caliban becoming the Hunter Vanguard, and you could say also led to every Hunter Vanguard after him.
Yeah.
Because if he had not been the successor, then perhaps I don't know if it was Andal that was immediately after him or not, but down the chain could have been a completely different chain of people if Tallulah had stayed around longer.
Sure. Or even like the idea of the dare. Like,
right.
I feel like that is the first dare, because if Tallulah was one of the first or the first, like, that is the rest of the dare. Is the all the hunters for the rest of time are beholden to this one event.
Eris wished to escape the Hellmouth with her little Ahamkara bone,
which I think she stole when she was trying to eradicate him with Ikora, and was just like, I'll grab one of these while I'm at it, and this might come in handy later.
I do think it came from the Great Hunts, but she used it to wish to escape the Hellmouth, which happened when us, the player guardian, broke down the door of the Hellmouth in D1, which led to her escaping, but also led to the reawakening of Crota, which led to us eventually killing him, which then led to the invasion of Oryx. And so like that one wish.
Isn't that crazy? Like
from Eris.
It's like all of Destiny. Like Eris is the reason Destiny exists right now.
Yep. Oryx, when he got here, wished to take Riven, which allowed her to keep her own will as seemingly the price of his wish, and seemed to give her the ability to control the Taken after Oryx's death.
Yep, because she summons them in the Last Wish. Like,
yep,
the entire Last Wish raid, all of those Taken that are there are all being summoned by Riven. They're all presumably under Riven's control, because they're not. There is no one there. The Taken. By the time you get to the Last Wish, you got to think timeline wise. Taken King is dead. He's long gone.
Yeah.
Presumably there are no new Taken, but in the Last Wish there are millions of new Taken, and you're
Yeah.
constantly fighting hordes and hordes and hordes of new Taken. So yeah, presumably Riven has that power to just conjure Taken up out of nowhere.
Well, remember, she had this bond, this link to Oryx. She may have very well learned what she
shit!
needs to do to take.
She could actively be taking.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
So going further down this, Savathun wished to control Riven, which led, in one way or another, to the Dreaming City being cursed. This is speculation on my part. I don't know that this was supposed to be a murder battery. And even Truth to Power on one page says it was, and on the very next page says it wasn't.
Yep.
I wonder if perhaps this was a place to allow Riven, under Savathun's control, to create new Taken.
Ooh.
Now, this is another important bit, and
To
I don't want to
build an infinite army.
Right. I don't want to dig into this too much, but Quoria could not take.
Right.
Quoria could control Taken that had already been made, but could not make new ones.
Interesting. But if presumably Riven could, then
Right.
I mean that's an infinite army that you could
right. So
up.
you have Riven that can make them, and then Quoria who can command them.
Interesting.
And I'm pulling that piece of information from a patrol with Toland, where Toland says Quoria is the key. The mind simulates Oryx and therefore masters the power to take. But of course, Quoria has no power of its own.
Yep.
So that tells me Quoria knows everything it needs to know about Taken, but it can't make them.
There's a ton of little text like that throughout the Shattered Throne dungeon.
Yeah.
From Toland. Like, so everywhere you find Toland in the Shattered Throne, he has some type of really good bit of information. As much as we say fucking Toland, he's kind of subject matter expert.
A little bit. He's a crazy bastard, but knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. The throne's right there. It's empty. Just take it. No. We don't want that.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't know that throne was empty. Now, knowing
shit,
what we know
because
now,
of Riven.
I think that power transferred to Riven, essentially.
I think you're right now. I think you're absolutely right. Because of Riven. Holy shit.
More recently, Crow was guided. I'm theorizing here a little bit. Crow was guided to create the Cryptolith lure, which we used during Season of the Hunt. Thank you.
Yep.
By, I believe, an Ahamkara relic, because in the lore entry, which is on the Cryptolith lure itself, it's talking about Crow and Glint are in this like back room of Spider's old stuff, old collection, trying to find something that can help them. And one of the things, Glint is like going around scanning things. He's like, oh, look, a Golden Age missive written on pulped plant matter. And oh, this is a pre-collapsed datapad named after a fruit.
He references an iPad. I love it.
Yeah.
It's an apple.
It's wonderful. One of the things he scans is like, oh, look at this. Isn't this cool? Is a fully intact Ahamkara brain.
Jesus Christ. What is that doing in Spider shit? Like, it near Spider? Get the fuck out of here. That's bad.
Right. So I don't know if a brain has the same effect as the bones, but
I don't know.
Probably.
I would think so.
So at the very least, and as they enter this room, lo and behold, the one thing that Crow needs to create this lure, he just so happens to find.
Shit.
So I have a sneaking suspicion that he only found that because of that Ahamkara brain. And, I imagine perhaps we may not know what the price of it was. It might have been something small. It could have been something as big as that's why he regained his memories, or maybe that's why, if we really want to go deep into it, perhaps that's what ultimately led to like him losing, Amanda, or who
Oh,
knows.
no. That's
I
sad.
say also somewhat recently, and this is another one that like if we put the spin foil on, implications are endless. Eris Morn on Nezarec's Whisper, the glaive. She's hunting Nezarec. She's trying to find where is Nezarec. And she finds the glaive on the pyramid, the moon pyramid. And she's gripping her Ahamkara bone, and she whispers into the air, "Where are you?" Now, I want to give Eris the benefit of the doubt. She's had this thing forever.
I don't know, man. She's been toting this damn thing all over the goddamn universe.
She knows what it is. She knows what it does, how it works, how dangerous it is. She keeps it concealed in soulfire all the time.
I was going to say, it has been encased in that soulfire, which is the hive magic. So presumably she can keep the wishes in there. You know what I mean?
Right. Keep it in check.
Yeah, like a little pocket universe inside that soulfire to where it can't whisper out and nothing can whisper in unless she wills it to, unless she wants to.
Yeah. So, but if we wanted to be a little, little spin foil theory on it, perhaps her wanting to know or wanting to find Nezarec is what led to the somewhat crazy series of events that caused Nezarec's resurrection. That's and us finding
crazy.
him.
That's crazy talk, myth. You want to talk about spin foiling? Like that's, I mean, but it's not out of the realm of possibility with God dang it, with wish magic. That's a hard phrase to say.
So these are some of the ways that we know in some cases and can theorize in others that Ahamkara have had a direct or indirect impact on where we've ended up.
Pretty much the entire Destiny story.
They've really touched a little bit of everything. Which leads us into the final question for this episode and about Ahamkara in general. What's their end goal? What's their game?
I know what it is.
So we're going to do 2 readings. 3 readings. 2 from pieces in game and 1 from the most recent collector's edition. The Witch Queen collector's edition. And that essentially explain this. So the first one we're going to read is the Claws of Ahamkara, which is the Warlock exotic. And it says, "It's suffocating here, this prison. Do us a favor, O bearer ours. Still your mind. Invite us to enter the realm of your capricious thoughts. Your mind is vociferous, addled with worry and doubt. We can extinguish these trifles. Would you like that? Yes, we are here. We are not the photons on your screen, or the voice in your head, or the words you read. Shut your eyes tightly, and you may see us, at least part of us. Make us real, and in turn, we shall reify your thoughts, your dreams." So that's the end of that one. Before we discuss, the next one we're going to do is the Skull of Dire Ahamkara.
Don't do it, Myth. I'm afraid.
So the skull says this: "O bearer mine, what kind of talking skull would address its host that way? A stiff, stuck-up old fossil, but not me. Ahamkara, the illusion that one's ego depends on an object or an idea or a body. Some people say you should have no Ahamkara. Some people say you need to have the right Ahamkara. All I know is that you are not an illusion. Understand, this world around you, the people you meet, they're a little thin, right? Cardboard and drywall, cheap theater. Come on, try it out. Say, I am more than this. Feels good, doesn't it? I am the only real person here. Isn't it like their insults and bullets just went a little soft? I came to find you, only you, because you're special. You're from somewhere real, and together we can burn our way back there. Can't we, oh player mine? So you might have an idea of what the Ahamkara are playing at here, but to really just drive it home, uh, the last reading of tonight, which comes to us from the Hidden Dossier, which was part of the Witch Queen Collector's Edition, is Ikora talking about what the Ahamkara's end goal is. And she says, Ahamkara willingly seek destruction in order to be taken as trinkets by guardians. You must know this. You've tried to exploit those trinkets as thoroughly as any of the other factions. But do you understand the metaphysics behind their desire? I do. I once wished to know more about Ahamkara. Wish granted. Ahamkara believe that by transforming themselves, by metamorphosizing from monsters into treasures, they become more real, more important anatologically. It is the gap between reality as is and reality as desired that they feed on. And guardians are the richest, finest source of reality as desired that they have ever met. What have Ahamkara artifacts ever done but instill delusions of grandeur? A solipsistic madness. I am more real than what surrounds me. Why is that? The skulls of dire Ahamkara speak to me. They know I want the truth, and they whisper to me of a path they climb. They call it the anathematic arc. They are going somewhere. Somewhere they consider more real. And guardians are part of how they get there. And that's the end of that entry. So, Ahamkara are a little metagamey.
They know they're in a video game.
They do.
And they want out. Myth, what have you done?
So, yeah, that is the Ahamkara's end goal, is they want access to that higher plane of existence. They no longer want to be pixels on a screen. And they know that our guardian and guardians in general are piloted by beings of this higher plane of existence. And so they're literally attaching themselves to guardians as armor and trinkets to try and get close enough to get out, to get into our world.
What have you done, Myth? What have you done?
I have just spread the truth is all I've done.
Spread the truth, spread the power. Yeah, I fucking love that. Like, the idea that an entity in a video game knows it's in a video game and wants out. That's super freaking cool. I absolutely love Bungie for doing something like that. Like, it I don't know, it like helps connect it more, right? Like it makes it it honestly, as weird as it sounds, it makes the game feel more real.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me to think like that, but it's I love it. I love that that little inkling is in there. Like they have now bound themselves to every player by saying, "Oh, player mine." Like that's it. That's game over. We're now beholden to them. That's so awesome.
So say with that, that's gonna end our Ahamkara episodes.
Well, holy
Uh,
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
this was a fun one.
That was awesome. This was awesome. I've been wanting to do this forever. Like this was my I don't know, like all the little stories in there, the you know, Saladin fighting a dragon, the Praetus just fighting for eternity, or you know, just the idea of like every time you read about, oh hey, here's this bone, oh shit, it's an Ahamkara bone.
Yep.
Like that's like changes your entire understanding of history of what happened. Like the entire cabal, like oh my god, all the events of every destiny, like the entire Riven thing and Taken and the last wish, like I mean, we get to fight and kill a dragon. We think we like because even after you kill her in the Heart's Cleanse, like if you sit there long enough, that she comes back and she's like, "Oh, thank God they're all gone. I'd love to show you what she wished for." And then that's it. Like, what? Who is she? What? Mara, the queen, the witch queen, the Savathun, the you Riven she? Like who? What
Right.
she? Like Coria? Is that technically a she? I don't know. Yeah, I love Ahamkara. I love the entire idea of them. I love that we're able to like pull all these bits of data together and be like, okay, this is what we think they are. This is where we think we're going with them. So
Yep.
yeah, and there is like I said, as far as a Ahamkara, there is at least one corrupted egg somewhere. It was sitting in Mara's chamber. We've never seen it since. That's been a little over a year now since we've seen it. Probably about a year and a half since we've seen it. So it's like, where is that thing? What is the plan for that? Is that some hidden plan for Mara? Is that some hidden plan for the Nine? Is that some hidden plan for the Ahamkara, Savathun, the Witness? Like, who knows where this plan could come from?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, yeah, this is awesome. Alrighty. Well, we did it. Myth, I guess we'll move on to shout outs. Do we got any shout outs?
Yeah, so no specific shout outs tonight, which is fine. Just do our normal little spiel. So say if you you know found us entertaining on your platform of choice, and feel strongly enough to leave a review, we encourage you to do so. If you really felt strongly you want to leave a text review, if your platform allows that, please do so. We enjoy reading those. Or if you want to just reach out to us outside of that, you can reach us at Myths and Stories with a Z instead of an S on Twitter. And we do read through those when we can. I haven't been as good about keeping up on it lately, just because stuff has been busy in the rest of my life. So but we do read through those, and you may hear yourself in a future shout out.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else, Smith?
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, then from all of us lore nerds to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next week, oh listener mine.